screen went black. Ethan Caldwell froze, his fingers still hovering above the trackpad, the city lights of Seattle glowing behind the glass wall of his office. The humming servers beneath the floor cut out all at once, plunging the room into an unnatural silence. No, 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 he muttered, tapping the keyboard harder this time. A red warning flashed across the monitors. Access denied. Data encryption in progress. His breath hitched. This wasn't a glitch. This wasn't a delay. This was an execution. Ethan spun in his chair and grabbed his phone. Call Mark. Now, he barked into the receiver, straight to voicemail. He tried again. Same result. He dialed the security director. Nothing. One by one, every call failed. The clock on his wall read 11:47 p.m. The deal was scheduled for 8 a.m. 14 years. That's how long it had taken him to build North Star Dynamics from a rented co-working desk into one of the most powerful data firms on the West Coast. 14 years of sleeping, under his desk, missing birthdays, losing a marriage, convincing himself it was all worth it. And now, in less than 60 seconds, it was bleeding out in front of him. Roll back the backup, he whispered, fingers shaking. Another message appeared. Backup servers compromised. Ethan stood up so fast his chair slammed into the glass wall. That's impossible, he said aloud, like the system could hear him. Those servers are isolated. The screen responded with another line of text. You taught us well. His stomach dropped. Someone inside the company had done this. Ethan dragged both hands down his face. For the first time in years, he felt truly alone. No assistants, no engineers, no board members, just him and the slow-motion collapse of everything he owned. A soft squeak broke the silence. Ethan turned sharply. A cleaning cart stood just inside the open doorway. Behind it was a woman in a gray uniform, frozen mid-step, her eyes locked on the red error messages flooding the screens. I'm sorry, she said quickly. I didn't know anyone was still here. Ethan exhaled harshly. It's fine, he said, already turning back. Just give me a minute. But she didn't move. Instead, she took a cautious step forward. Then another. That pattern, she said quietly. Ethan spun. What? She pointed at the monitor. The encryption cascade, the delay between the lockouts. It's deliberate, his patient snapped. Look, I appreciate the concern, but this is way above. They didn't touch your cold storage, she interrupted. Ethan stared at her. What did you say? They want you panicking, she said, voice steady now. If they wiped everything, you'd shut the company down immediately. This way, they control the clock. Ethan studied her face. She wasn't guessing. She wasn't rambling. She knew. Who are you? He asked. She hesitated. Lucía, that's not what I meant. Her eyes flicked to the security cameras, then back to him. I cleaned this floor. Ethan laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. Right. And I suppose you moonlight as a hacker. I used to be a cybersecurity architect, she said. Before life got complicated. The room went quiet, again. Ethan shook his head. This isn't the time for jokes. I'm not joking, she said. And you're out of time. Another alert flashed. Data transfer at T37%. Ethan's heart pounded. You expect me to believe you can stop this? I know the signature, she said. It's a modified Hydrolock strain. Whoever deployed it wanted access, not destruction, bar. And you know this how, bar? He met his gaze. Because I helped design the original countermeasures. Years ago, in California, bar, then searched her face for cracks. For uncertainty, bar. Here was none. You're telling me, he said slowly, that the only person left in this building who can help me is the janitor. Lucía swallowed. I didn't say I could save everything, she said, but I can try. If you let me, another progress bar jumped forward. 41%. Ethan closed his eyes. When he opened them, the arrogance that had defined him for years was gone. Sit, he said, pulling out a chair. Lucía didn't waste a second. She slid into the seat, fingers moving with a speed that made Ethan's chest tighten. Lines of codes scrolled. She bypassed one firewall, then another. They planted the access weeks ago, she said. This wasn't random. Who? Ethan asked. She didn't answer right away. Someone who knows your architecture. Someone trusted. Ethan clenched his jaw. You need to give me admin access, she said. That's impossible. Then this company dies, tonight. Ethan stared at the authorization screen. His finger hovered the same way it had minutes earlier, except now the stakes were clearer than ever. If you do this, he said, you could erase everything. Lucía looked up at him. If I wanted to destroy you, she said softly, I wouldn't be wearing gloves. He authorized the access. The system accepted it. Lucía exhaled. Just once. Okay, she said. Now we fight. They moved to the server room together, the air colder, heavier. Ethan watched her crouch by the terminal, her cleaning badge swinging uselessly against her chest. Why are you here? He asked suddenly. She didn't look up. Because when my husband got sick, no one else stayed. The words landed hard. He died 2 years ago, she continued. After that, every interview ended the same way. You're overqualified. Or worse, silence. So you cleaned floors, Ethan said. So I survived, she replied. The transfer hit 52%. Lucía typed faster. They're rerouting through a shadow node, she said. If I cut it too early, they'll notice. Ethan leaned in. And if you wait too long, she met his eyes. There won't be anything left to save. The lights flickered. For the first time, Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope and fear. If you're still watching at this point, make sure you're subscribed, because this is just the beginning. And what happens next changes everything. Lucía's fingers blurred across the keyboard as alarms pulsed softly through the server room. The transfer percentage stalled at 58, flickered, then climbed again. They're adapting, she said, jaw tight. They're watching how I respond. Ethan's voice was hoarse. Can they see you? They'll know someone's interfering, they just won't know who yet. She paused, then added, unless it's someone inside the building, that word again. Inside, Ethan's stomach twisted. You think this came from my own team? I know it did. The percentage jumped to 64. Lucía slammed a command, and the lights dimmed for half a second. The hum of the servers changed pitch, like a living thing growling. Talk to me, Ethan said. Tell me what you're doing. I'm isolating the extraction path without triggering their fail-safe. If they sense a hard stop, they'll wipe the encryption keys. And then you lose everything permanently. He swallowed. How much time do we have? Lucía glanced at the clock on the wall. Minutes, maybe less. Ethan paced behind her. Why didn't anyone catch this? We run audits every quarter. They hid in plain sight, she said. You trust your people. That's what makes this possible. Her words weren't an accusation. That almost made them worse. The percentage froze at 70%. Lucía exhaled slowly. Okay. She leaned back for half a second, eyes closed, then dove in again. If I'm right, their primary node is mirrored through an internal admin credential. Ethan stopped pacing. You're saying someone handed them the keys? Yes. His voice cracked. Who? I can't be sure yet. The percentage ticked to 71. Lucía's hands paused. What? Ethan asked. They just pinged me, she said quietly. Pinged you how? She turned the monitor so he could see. A message appeared in stark white text. Impressive, but futile. Ethan's blood ran cold. They're taunting you. They're warning me, she said. They want me to stop. Can they trace you? Not if I keep moving. The message vanished. The transfer resumed. Lucía's jaw set. I'm cutting the shadow node now. Wait. She executed the command. Every screen in the room went black. Ethan's heart slammed against his ribs. Lucía? For a terrifying second, nothing happened. Then one monitor flickered back to life. Data transfer failed. Connection terminated. Ethan staggered back against the rack. Did we? Lucía didn't celebrate. She leaned forward, scanning lines of code, her face pale. Not yet, she said. This was phase 1. Ethan blinked. Phase 1? She looked at him. They weren't stealing your data to sell it. Then why? To collapse your valuation. Understanding hit him like a punch. The merger, he whispered. They trigger the breach, kill your credibility, then step in as the solution, Lucía said. By morning, your company is worth half what it was yesterday. A chill crept up Ethan's spine. Who benefits from that? Lucía typed a command and pulled up access logs. Someone with money and patience. Names scrolled past, then one stopped her cold. Lucía's fingers hovered. Ethan leaned closer. What is it? She swallowed. I need to verify. Lucía. She didn't answer. The door behind them creaked open. Both of them turned. Mark Halden stepped into the server room, jacket slung over his shoulder, expression unreadable. There you are, Mark said calmly. I was wondering why the system alerts went quiet. Ethan felt his pulse spike. What are you doing here? Mark's gaze flicked to Lucía. Funny, I was about to ask the same thing. Lucía stood slowly, wiping her hands on her uniform. I work here. Mark smiled thinly. You clean here. Ethan stepped forward. She just saved the company. Mark raised an eyebrow. Is that what she told you? Lucía's eyes locked onto his. You authorized the mirror credential, she said. 3 weeks ago. The air shifted. Mark chuckled. That's a serious accusation. I can pull the timestamp, she said. The access token originated from your console. Ethan turned to Mark. Is that true? Mark's smile didn't reach his eyes. Ethan, you're exhausted, you're panicking, and you're trusting someone you met tonight over a man who's been with you for a decade. Lucía felt her chest tighten. She'd seen this before. The doubt. The dismissal. Ethan hesitated. Just for a second. Mark saw it and pressed. Let me call the board. We'll sort this out properly. Lucía's voice rose. If you give him that chance, he'll erase everything. Mark's eyes snapped to her. Careful. Don't, Ethan said suddenly. Both of them looked at him. Ethan straightened. Don't threaten her. Mark sighed. You're making a mistake. Am I? Ethan asked. Because every instinct I have says you're hiding something. Mark studied him for a long moment. Then he smiled again. You always were terrible at reading people, he said. Lucía's stomach dropped. Mark turned and walked out. Ethan exhaled shakily. That was weird. Lucía was already typing. He knows I'm onto him. So what now? Now, she said, we make him show his hand. Morning came fast. By the time employees filled the building, North Star's systems were operational. The crisis alerts had been silenced. To most of the staff, it looked like a minor overnight outage. Ethan knew better. He stood in the main conference room, eyes scanning the faces around the table. Executives, engineers, people who trusted him. Lucía stood at the far end, wearing a borrowed blazer, her cleaning badge still clipped to her waist. Murmurs rippled through the room. Ethan cleared his throat. Last night, he began, this company was attacked. The room stilled. If not for one person, he continued, we wouldn't be sitting here right now. He turned to Lucía. This is Lucía Moreno. She stopped the breach. A few people exchanged confused looks. Mark leaned back in his chair. With all due respect, Ethan, this is highly irregular. Ethan met his gaze. So was the attack. Mark folded his arms. Are we really taking security advice from cleaning staff now? Lucía felt heat rise in her face. Ethan didn't hesitate. Effective immediately, I'm forming a cyber defense unit. Lucía will lead it. The room erupted. Mark shot to his feet. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious, Ethan said. Mark's voice dropped. You don't know who she is. Ethan replied evenly. I know what she did. Lucía looked at Ethan, stunned. He nodded once. Badge her in. Mark stared at them both, his expression darkening. Lucía felt it then. The shift. The moment where things stopped being about systems and started being about survival. As the meeting adjourned, Mark brushed past her. This isn't over, he whispered. Lucía didn't respond, but she believed him. And somewhere deep in the building, a second clock started ticking. Lucía didn't sleep that night. She lay on her back in the small apartment she rented above a closed-down bakery, staring at the ceiling as fragments of code replayed in her mind like ghosts. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Mark smile, not anger, not panic, confidence. That scared her more than anything. Her phone buzzed at 2:14 a.m., unknown number. She stared at it for a full 3 seconds before answering. Hello? Silence. Then a low voice distorted just enough. You should have stayed invisible. The line went dead. Lucía sat up, heart hammering. She checked the door. Locked. Windows shut. Her phone buzzed again. A message this time. Go back to cleaning floors. Her hands trembled as she set the phone down. She forced herself to breathe. Panic wouldn't help. Panic never helped. By morning she had already found it. The tracker was small, black, magnetized, tucked behind the rear axle of her car. She stared at it for a long moment before carefully removing it and dropping it into a signal-blocking pouch she'd made years ago, back when she still lived a different life. So it was real. He wasn't just trying to discredit her. He was hunting her. At North Star, Ethan noticed immediately. You look exhausted, he said quietly as they walked through the operations floor. I am, Lucía replied, but we don't have time for rest. He lowered his voice. What happened? She told him everything. The call, the message, the tracker. Ethan stopped walking. We're calling the police. No, she said instantly. Lucía, if we involve them now, he disappears, she said, and whoever he's working with stays hidden. Ethan clenched his jaw. You're asking me to let this man threaten you. I'm asking you to let me finish this. He looked at her for a long moment. You shouldn't have to be brave again. She met his gaze. I don't know how to be anything else. They moved into a glass-walled conference room and shut the door. He's still inside the system. Lucía said, pulling up a diagram. He hasn't shut down his access because he thinks I'm afraid. Are you? Ethan asked. She hesitated. Yes. Then she straightened. But fear makes people predictable. She typed quickly, projecting a new interface onto the screen. We feed him something valuable, something he can't resist. Ethan frowned. Fake data. Not obviously fake, she said, convincing, proprietary, just enough to make him move. And when he does, we trace everything. Ethan exhaled. And if he realizes it's a trap, Lucía looked at him, then he'll come for me in person. The words hung between them. Ethan shook his head. No, absolutely not. He already has, she said. This just lets us control when. That evening, Lucía stayed late again. So did Ethan. From the security office, they watched as Mark's access lit up on the internal dashboard. He took the bait, Lucía murmured. Ethan leaned forward. He's moving faster than last time. Because he's desperate, she said. That means mistakes. Mark's credentials jumped from one system to another, bypassing protocols that only someone at his level could access. Lucía's screen filled with timestamps. Where's he sending it? Ethan asked. She smiled grimly. Nowhere yet. She typed one final command and froze the feed. At that exact moment, Lucía's phone buzzed. Unknown number again. She answered without hesitation. You're sloppy, she said. Silence. Then Mark's real voice, calm and cold. You think you're clever. I know you are, she replied. That's why this surprised you. Ethan's heart raced as he listened. You ruined everything, Mark said. Do you have any idea what was promised to me? You already had everything, Lucía said. You just wanted more. Mark laughed softly. You don't understand how this world works. I understand perfectly, she said. I just stopped playing your game. A pause. Then Mark said quietly, check the parking garage. The line went dead. Ethan shot to his feet. Lucía, she was already moving. They raced down the stairwell, footsteps echoing. When they reached the garage, Lucía stopped short. Her car sat exactly where she'd left it, untouched. No explosion, Ethan breathed. Lucía scanned the shadows. He wanted us scared. A slow clap echoed from behind a concrete pillar. Mark stepped into view. You should have walked away, he said. Security alarms blared as Lucía's system finally locked him out. Too late. Mark smiled. You think that ends this? Ethan stepped between them. It does. Mark's gaze flicked to Ethan. You always trusted the wrong people, and you always underestimated the quiet ones, Lucía said. Sirens echoed in the distance. Mark backed away, then turned and ran. By the time security arrived, he was gone, but Lucía looked down at her tablet and exhaled. We got him, she said softly. Ethan stared at the screen. Is that everything, she said. Every transfer, every contact, including Apex Core. Ethan's voice was tight. We can expose all of it. Lucía nodded. And we should. The next morning, the boardroom was packed. This will destroy our image, one director argued. It will save our soul, Lucía said quietly. Ethan looked around the table. We're telling the truth. By noon, the story was everywhere. By nightfall, warrants were issued. Mark Halden was arrested trying to cross the border. Lucía stood alone in the server room, the crisis finally over. Ethan joined her. You didn't just save the company, he said. You changed me. She smiled faintly. Just don't forget it. If this story has you hooked so far, don't forget to like the video. It helps more people see stories like this. And stay with us, because the ending isn't about revenge. It's about becoming something new. The building felt different once the noise stopped. No alarms, no flashing warnings, just the low, steady hum of systems doing what they were meant to do. Lucía stood in the center of the operations floor long after everyone else had gone home, watching the screens cycle through green status indicators. For the first time in years, there was nothing chasing her. Ethan approached quietly, holding 2 cups of coffee. He set one beside her without a word. You don't have to stay, he said gently. She wrapped her hands around the cup, letting the warmth steady her. I know. They stood there in silence for a moment, the kind that didn't need filling. They called this morning, Ethan said finally. Federal investigators. Apex Core's executives are being questioned. Their stock is already in free fall. Lucía nodded. It was never just Mark. No, Ethan agreed, but he chose his side. Lucía looked up at him. So did you. He met her gaze. I almost didn't. She considered that. But you did. Ethan exhaled slowly. I built this company thinking strength meant control. Titles, walls. I didn't see how blind it made me. Lucía's voice was soft. Most people don't. until they're forced to look. He turned toward the old server room, the one where everything had almost ended. I've been thinking about that night, he said. About you. She raised an eyebrow. That sounds dangerous. He smiled faintly. You know what I mean. You saved everything I thought to find me, and then you showed me how little of it actually mattered. Lucía set the coffee down. I didn't do it for gratitude. I know, Ethan said. That's why it matters. A week later, North Star held a company-wide meeting. Lucía stood beside Ethan on the stage, heart pounding harder than it had during the breach. Hundreds of employees filled the room, watching her with a mixture of curiosity and respect. Ethan spoke first. A few weeks ago, he said, this company nearly collapsed, not because of a lack of intelligence or resources or ambition, but because we forgot who we were supposed to protect. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. We believed danger only came from the outside, Ethan continued. We were wrong. He gestured toward Lucía. This woman reminded me that trust, humility, and vigilance are not weaknesses. They are the foundation of everything worth building. Lucía stepped forward. I spent years being invisible, she said, voice steady despite the knot in her chest. Not because I lacked skill, but because life happened and the world moved on. A few heads nodded. I don't want anyone here to feel that way, she continued. Talent doesn't disappear because time passes, and value doesn't vanish because someone stops fitting a title. The room was silent. Ethan looked at her with something that felt like pride, not ownership, not admiration, respect. That afternoon, the company announced the launch of the Santos Innovation Lab, dedicated to internal security, ethical technology, and mentorship for professionals re-entering the workforce. Lucía stared at the name on the glass wall for a long time. You didn't have to do that, she said quietly. I did, Ethan replied, because that room saved my life. Months passed. North Star grew, but differently now, slower, more careful. Meetings included voices that had once been ignored. Titles mattered less than insight. Lucía thrived. She didn't forget where she came from. She still walked the building, late some nights, not to clean, but to listen, to notice, to remember how easily people were overlooked. One evening, as she shut down her terminal, Ethan appeared in the doorway. Walk with me? He asked. They stepped out onto the rooftop terrace, the city lights stretching endlessly below. You know, Ethan said, leaning against the railing, there was a time when I thought losing everything would kill me. Lucía glanced at him. And now I know it saved me, he said, because it forced me to see people instead of positions. She smiled faintly. That's a hard lesson. He hesitated. I don't want to go back to who I was. You won't, she said. Not if you remember how it felt that night. He nodded. I want to build something better. With you. Lucía met his gaze. There was no desperation there. No rescue fantasy. Just choice. Then let's build it right, she said. The story didn't end with fireworks or headlines. It ended with something quieter. Lucía mentoring a young analyst who'd almost quit after a career break. Ethan turning down a ruthless acquisition because it didn't align with their values. A company that survived not because of power, but because someone unseen had been willing to stand up when it mattered. And somewhere out there, in offices and hallways and quiet corners of the world, people were still being overlooked, still being underestimated, still holding the ability to save something or someone, if only they were seen. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video because it tells the algorithm. Stories like this matter. Subscribe for more powerful emotional stories about hidden heroes and second chances. And comment below. Have you ever been underestimated or seen someone overlooked who deserved more? Because sometimes the person who changes everything is the one everyone else walks past.